Have you ever had déjà vu that felt too real to dismiss? Not the
跨
casual
越星
kind,
海，
but the kind where your body
我们终
reacts
会相
before
遇
your mind catches up. Have synchronicities been stacking up so precisely they almost feel staged? Have you noticed moments where reality seems to glitch, where time stretches or compresses, where a single second feels heavy with meaning? If you've experienced that, you're not crazy, you're not broken, you're not too imaginative. You're perceiving something most people filter out. And if that realization ever made you feel isolated, like you can't talk about it without being labeled, strange, there's a reason for that. You feel alone because you're operating at a different frequency. Not superior, different, like a radio tuned slightly off the dominant signal of the world. Here's the pattern no one explained to you. When quantum consciousness begins to surface, the subconscious mind stops passively consuming reality and starts interacting with it. That's when the hidden reality begins to leak through the cracks, not as beliefs, not as fantasies, but as patterns you can't unsee once they appear. Most people never notice. They're locked into habit, routine, predictability, but some people maybe you start noticing anomalies, small inconsistencies in the story we've been told about how reality works. Moments that don't fit the official explanation. And science knows this is happening. It just doesn't know how to talk about it without tearing itself apart. Because buried inside quantum mechanics is a problem so disturbing it's been quietly avoided for decades. A problem that suggests reality doesn't exist independently of observation. A problem that implies the observer effect isn't a metaphor, it's a mechanism. In controlled experiments performed in the late 20th century, particles behaved differently depending on whether they were being observed, not measured, observed. When no observer was present, reality remained probabilistic, spread out, undefined, vibrating as pure potential inside the quantum field. But the moment observation occurred, that wave collapsed into a single outcome. Reality didn't just reveal itself, it decided. That shouldn't be possible. And yet, it keeps happening. This is where mainstream science gets uncomfortable. Because if consciousness plays a role in reality creation, then matter isn't fundamental. Meaning is. Information is. Awareness is. And that conclusion destabilizes everything from physics to philosophy to the structures that rely on a predictable world. Several papers exploring this connection were rejected repeatedly. One was rejected 14 times. The stated reason was always the same. Too metaphysical. Not wrong. Not disproven. Just dangerous. Because once you accept that consciousness interacts with reality at a foundational level, everything changes. Time stops feeling strictly linear. Causality becomes flexible. And those moments you once dismissed as coincidences start to look like signals. Synchronicities stop feeling random. Déjà vu stops feeling accidental. The sense that reality bends around attention begins to make a disturbing kind of sense. This is why spiritual awakening rarely feels peaceful at first. It feels destabilizing, because your internal model of the world can't survive what you're starting to perceive. Your vibration shifts, your frequency changes, and suddenly the old explanations don't work anymore. That's also why you may feel alone. It's not because you're above anyone else. It's because consciousness doesn't expand uniformly. A radio can't pick up every station at once. Neither can perception. And here's the part most people miss. The quantum field doesn't respond to thoughts alone. It responds to coherence between thought, emotion, and attention. That's why intention without awareness fails. And why awareness without integration feels overwhelming. Something is interacting with you, not spiritually in a vague sense. Scientifically in a way that has names, equations, dates, and experimental data attached to it. But the implications are so radical that even physicists hesitate to follow them to their logical conclusion. Because if this is true, then reality isn't happening to you. It's happening through you. And that would mean those moments, the déjà vu, the impossible synchronicities, the feeling that time distorted just enough for you to notice, were never glitches at all. They were signals. Stay with me. This isn't for everyone. In the next part, we're going to look at the exact experiment that pushed this question too far, and why what scientists found terrified them enough to try to bury it. Stay with me. This video isn't for everyone, only for those who've noticed something feels off. If something clicked internally while you are listening, you belong here. I want you to do one thing first. In the comments, share your most unexplainable synchronicity. Be specific. When it happened, what lined up, how it felt. I'm reading every one not for reactions, but to see patterns that only emerge collectively. When you like this video, you're not supporting a channel. You're signaling the algorithm to surface this conversation to others, quietly searching for the same truth. That's how this expands. And subscribing isn't consumption. It's entry into a space where consciousness operates at a different frequency. What comes next builds directly on this, deeper, sharper, and harder to ignore. Quantum physics shattered the oldest assumption we have, that reality exists independently of us. In 1927, during the 5th Solvay conference in Brussels, physicist Niels Bohr defended experimental results showing that subatomic particles do not possess fixed properties until observed. Years later, refined versions of the double slit experiment confirmed this beyond doubt. At the smallest scale, particles behave not like objects, but like possibilities, waves of probability, until the moment an observer is involved. This is the observer effect, and it means reality does not simply happen. It responds. That fact alone should unsettle you. Because if perception collapses probability, then the moments in your life that felt too precise were never random. The synchronicities that appeared exactly when you stopped forcing outcomes. The déjà vu that arrived with emotional weight instead of confusion. The sense that multiple versions of your life almost brushed against awareness. This is quantum consciousness becoming personal. Your subconscious mind isn't imagining patterns. It's interacting with a hidden reality beneath appearances. In 2022, peer-reviewed studies on quantum entanglement confirmed something even more disturbing. Correlated particles responded instantaneously in ways that ignored classical time ordering. Information behaved as if past and future were negotiable. Energy followed relationship, not distance. Frequency mattered more than location. The quantum field responded to connection, not space. This forces a radical conclusion. Consciousness expansion is not symbolic. It is interaction. Reality creation is participatory. A Nobel Prize winner said the quiet part out loud decades ago. Max Planck stated that consciousness is fundamental and matter is derivative. But they don't teach you this in school, because a population that understands this cannot be controlled through fear or separation. If you've experienced a moment where reality answered your awareness, describe it in the comments with details. This isn't engagement. It's recognition among minds operating at the same frequency. And it gets stranger, because here is where everything begins to change. And it gets stranger, because this is where time itself breaks. In 1961, physicist John Archibald Wheeler proposed an experiment that sounded impossible even to his peers. He asked a question that violated the foundation of classical physics. What if a choice made in the present could determine what happened in the past? At the time, it was dismissed as metaphysical speculation. But decades later, in 1999, researchers at the University of Maryland tested his idea in what became known as the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment. The results were precise, repeatable, and deeply unsettling. When information about a particle's path was erased after the particle had already been detected, interference patterns returned as if the particle had never made a choice at all. A measurement made now altered behavior that had already occurred. Not metaphorically, literally. This means the quantum field does not obey the time you experience. Perception reaches backward. Reality creation is not a fixed movie playing from past to future. It is a conversation across probability, and your quantum consciousness is part of that dialogue. If that makes you uncomfortable, it should, because it explains why certain moments in your life feel retroactively meaningful. Why a synchronicity today suddenly reframes something that happened years ago. Why déjà vu arrives with certainty instead of confusion. This is consciousness expansion happening in real time. The subconscious mind interacting with a hidden reality where frequency matters more than sequence. Entanglement confirms it. Two particles share a single state regardless of distance, responding instantly as one system. Energy and information ignore space, and now time. Quantum consciousness is not local, and neither are you. That strange feeling that parallel realities almost brush against your perception during spiritual awakening is not imagination. It is perception adjusting to a deeper layer of reality. Nobel Prize winner Eugene Wigner eventually admitted that consciousness must be fundamental to quantum mechanics, not an emergent byproduct. But they don't teach this in school because it destabilizes a world built on predictability and control. If you've experienced a moment where timing felt impossible, describe it in the comments with details. This isn't engagement. It's how awakened perception recognizes itself. And it gets stranger because this is where everything changes. Because this is where the foundation finally cracks. Here's what truly terrifies materialist scientists. Every equation, every law of physics, every model we use to describe reality is written in mathematics. And yet mathematics does not exist in physical space. You can't touch it. You can't weigh it. It has no mass, no location, no energy signature. Still, it governs everything you see. Mathematics exists only in mind, which means the structure of the universe is informational before it is physical. In 1935, Erwin Schrödinger formalized the wave function, demonstrating that physical systems remain suspended as probabilities until observation occurs. Decades of repeated double-slit experiment variations confirmed the same result. Particles do not commit to reality until perception intervenes. Matter follows meaning. Energy follows awareness within the quantum field. The observer effect is not philosophical, it is mechanical. If this feels uncomfortably personal, that's because it mirrors your own experience. The synchronicities that appear when you stop forcing outcomes. The déjà vu that feels like memory leaking from another timeline. The sense that parallel realities almost touch your perception during spiritual awakening. This is quantum consciousness becoming intimate. Your subconscious mind is no longer reacting to reality. It is participating in reality creation through vibration and frequency. Entanglement deepens the rupture. Two particles share a single state regardless of distance, responding instantly as one system. Information ignores space. Mathematics ignores matter, which means the hidden reality beneath physics is mental, not mechanical. Consciousness expansion is not poetic language. It is perception interacting directly with structure. In 1931, Max Planck, the father of quantum theory, stated plainly, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. Matter is derivative from consciousness." But they don't teach you this in school because a population that understands this cannot be controlled through fear, separation, or linear time. If you've experienced a moment where reality responded to your awareness, write it in the comments with details. This isn't engagement, it's recognition among awakened perception. And it gets stranger, because if consciousness is fundamental, then death, time, and separation don't mean what we were taught. And here is where everything changes, because this is where everything you've heard quietly rearranges itself. Once you see this, you can't unsee it. Something inside you has already shifted, and it isn't staying in the mind. It's landing in the body. The science you just followed was never meant to sit comfortably as information. It was meant to trigger recognition. Quantum consciousness, the quantum field, the observer effect, entanglement, perception, reality creation. Each layer narrowed your attention until only one conclusion remained. Reality does not happen to you. It happens through you. Nothing new was given. Nothing mystical was added. Consciousness expansion is not gaining a power. It is remembering one that was always there and deliberately muted. Your subconscious mind has always been collapsing possibilities into experience, tuning outcomes through vibration and frequency. You were trained to forget, trained to externalize authority, trained to believe meaning and energy lived somewhere outside your awareness. If you feel unsettled right now, that isn't fear. It's calibration. A shift in frequency feels strange before it feels natural. Spiritual awakening rarely arrives as peace. It arrives as disorientation because the old map no longer matches what perception is detecting. Feel it in your chest. The quickened heartbeat isn't anxiety, it's recognition. Something inside you just aligned with a deeper layer of the hidden reality. Here is the implication no one rushes to explain. If consciousness collapses reality, then time is not a straight line, separation is not fundamental, and death cannot mean what you were taught. You don't need answers yet. Just notice what happens when that idea lands. The discomfort is the signal. This understanding has always been suppressed for a reason. Minds that know they shape reality cannot be managed the same way. Control requires forgetfulness. You didn't find this by accident. Alignment brought you here. Thousands are waking at the same time, tuning into the same frequency, and this space is becoming a point of convergence. You are not alone, even if it felt that way before now. This is a meeting place. In the comments, write one phrase: I am the observer, or consciousness creates, or I see beyond the veil. This isn't engagement, it's a ritual, a public collapse of intention that feeds the collective field and attracts resonant awareness. Say it and feel what happens next. Something irreversible has already begun. You can't unknow this. Pause. Breathe. What happens now depends on the choice you make in the next few seconds. Something changed in you while you were watching this, and it isn't going back to how it was. That quiet shift you feel isn't imagination. It's awareness reorganizing itself. When quantum consciousness activates, perception expands, and the quantum field responds. That's already happening. Now make it coherent. In the comments, write one phrase: I am the observer, or consciousness creates, or I see beyond the veil. This isn't engagement. A public declaration collapses intention. It stabilizes frequency and feeds a shared field that attracts other minds resonating with the same level of consciousness expansion. If this matters to you, signal it. Liking this video isn't about metrics. It tells the algorithm to surface this conversation to others quietly searching for the same hidden reality. That's how suppressed knowledge spreads. And subscribing isn't passive. This is a space for those operating on a different frequency, where each video goes deeper into spiritual awakening through science. This isn't for everyone, only for those who are ready. Next, we go further than most people expect. God was found in the quantum field, and the truth will change humanity forever. Your consciousness brought you here. Reality responds. What happens now is choice.